Good morning, Belgrade Brit here. On a early spring. It's a bit chilly, a bit crunchy underfoot. All is well in Belgrade. First night for a while we haven't had any attacks. So no alarms, no surprises, as a famous band once said. But if you listen to the West, Russia's on its knees. In fact, there's so much crap flying around now. It's like a torrent, isn't it? Not to put too fine a point on it, everyone's gone bullshit crazy. Apparently, Iran is about to surrender to Oman or someone. They bomb their own schools. We've heard that one before. Russians were bombing themselves for years. Still are, probably. Because, any time a civilian dies, it's got nothing to do with the West. Because their bombs have an automatic guidance system, which means if they detect someone is on the good side or under a certain age, they veer off and self-destruct. So they only kill naughty people, the Americans, and therefore if someone who isn't naughty is killed, that means it was them. It was the naughty ones, the evil ones, bombing themselves. Now, this is a bullshit too far for most people. Most people have, some kind of bullshit detector. Anyone that's been around children knows when they hear a lie. But adults are supposed to be more sophisticated, aren't they? Adults are supposed to be, complex liars. They're supposed to be able to get away with stuff because they tell lies which are plausible. That's the idea. They're plausible ideas. They're plausible stories they're telling. They lie by omitting the truth sometimes, or just sort of sculpting it a little bit. And that makes them better liars. You think, well, maybe there's some truth in what they say. Maybe, this is not quite the way I understand it. Don't believe my lying eyes. I don't believe my lying eyes. Something else has got to be working here. I mean, even if we go back to the Obama presidency, the lying was a bit more sophisticated. They at least made some kind of pretense to come up with a plausible, possible solution. I mean, this started with the Syria thing. So when the Syrian government was apparently dropping chemical weapons on their own people, you could swallow that lie because, Assad evil, he's a bad un. And is it possible that he made a mistake, or that there was some kind of internecine fighting or something? And then when you've got people calling themselves the White Helmets, turning up and saying, yeah, it's definitely true, that Assad is a bad un, and that's the kind of thing bad uns do, isn't it? So people kind of believed that. If your years of propaganda have to be worth something, Assad was a bad guy. Jelani's a good guy. He only chops off heads. Assad chemically bombed his own people. Well, he didn't know, did he? Subsequent investigations by honest people turned up the news that was just a lie. And it was a sophisticated lie. And it was on time, meaning people could just about believe it because it was sophisticated. You see? But the lies that are coming out of this current American administration are just straight up childish. They're transparently stupid. When asked why they're going to war with the Iranians, they come up with all sorts of things because they haven't coordinated their lie. They're not competent enough to coordinate a lie between all of them and stick to it for more than 15 seconds. These people don't appear to have a brain between them. Now, some people would say that, no, this is just a sophisticated way of manipulating the public. If you tell an obvious lie, and then you tell everybody that you're lying, or you demonstrate beyond all reasonable doubt that people are lying, that I'm lying. I'm telling you a lie now. I'm lying to you now. Well, do I know whether that's the truth? It's sort of playing with reality. It's trying to screw your mind up to such a point where you're not sure which way is up and down. This is sort of general confusion thing, that we're generally trying to confuse the public. Now, sophisticated thinkers might well say, well, if you confuse the public enough, it turns them off the whole thing. They just can't be bothered to sort it out. It's like talking about economic fraud. People just, in the end, they'll be so confused that they give up and go and buy a burger and sit and watch the American football. It's good to buy a burger and watch American football, but you shouldn't be doing it instead of thinking about the kind of things that are bringing us to World War III. It's this kind of confusion and this kind of outright outrageous lying that creates a situation which sort of makes the public disappear from the discourse. Nobody's quite sure what they're supposed to be criticising anymore. Nobody knows what's going on. Now, is it deliberate? I don't think so. The deliberate lies are done, like weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Yeah? That's a deliberate lie. That's concocted. It's planned out. A false flag. They worked this out in Vietnam, of course. Vietnam is a war I repeatedly return to. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was not an outright lie. The Americans were conducting operations to protect South Vietnamese commandos as they attacked a North Vietnamese island. And in that situation, one of those destroyers, I think it was the Turner Joy, came under some kind of fire by mistake because the North Vietnamese believed that they were involved in the operation. And they turned away and another destroyer arrived the following day, and they panicked a bit and they believed that certain radar targets were North Vietnamese patrol boats, and they started blatting away at everything, which is what American soldiers tend to do when they're panicked. They'll just expend ammunition. And that was what happened. That was the story. So what that was, they then spun that story to say that we were under attack. Our American fleet was under attack, and therefore we are defending ourselves from these North Vietnamese, and that's why we have to engage in this police action, emergency action, to go to war and bomb the crap out of everybody. And once people worked out that that was a complete fabrication, or wasn't, whichever side you were on, either way it was the excuse that took everybody to war, then people lost their trust and faith in government, in America particularly. Combined with the Kennedy assassination, that sort of divorced a lot of Americans from their own government and their belief in their own government. So what we have now is a sort of cavalcade of crap, a sort of bullshit bombs just going off, detonating everywhere, giving press conferences on a plane. We've got 3 people commenting on each other's bullshit and lies and adding to them. It's like a competition, a crapping competition. Who can pile as much crap onto these journalists? Now, that brings me to another question. Even the journalists now are starting to be confused by the narrative they're supposed to be pushing, to the point where they're starting to push back and ask questions like, do you really think that the Iranians bombed their own school? To which the answer is yes. It's, oh yeah, definitely. It's the sort of thing they do. And next, we should, if these people have any kind of backbone at all, get them to ask a follow-up question, which they've stopped doing, if you'll notice. They get the quote, and then they say, well, Trump says, Hegseth says. But the fact of the matter is, they should be pushing this agenda. At some point, they will have to. But it'll probably be too late to save them and their careers. But in my podcast, I'll go into why this is the sort of noise you hear before a major war.